Om Namo Narayanayo. Welcome back to the fourth video as we finish up the Kaushitaki Brahmana Upanishad. This has been a really interesting Upanishad, very different than the ones that I've previously recorded that are already posted on this channel. Lots of ritual mixed with the theology, and yeah, it's been a really interesting read. So today we finish up with part 4. Before I do, small print, this is like the 6th or 7th time I've attempted this video. I recorded the first 3 videos all in one day, and I got to this last part, and it's a dialogue between these two people, and partly because of the way it's written, and also that day I happened to just wear my voice out, I kept losing it. I kept losing the characters. So this video is going to be a little bit different. I decided to record the narration, one character and another character, and then go back and just painstakingly slice it all together. So this is going to cut and cut and cut and cut like a really bad movie. My apologies, but it's the best way of churning out the end of this. And then we'll end with the normal thoughts that I always do. Okay? And, yes. So here we go. Before I go into this, thank you for watching. Now then, verily, there was Gargya Balaki, a famed Vedic scholar. He dwelt among the Ushanaras, the Sattvans and the Matsyas, among the Kurus and the Panchalas, among the Kashis and the Vidyas. Having come to Ajatasattu of Kashi, he said, "Let me declare Brahman unto you." To him then, Ajatasattu said, "1,000 cows we give to you." At such a word as this, verily indeed people would run together, crying, "Ajanaka, Ajanaka." In the sun the great, in the moon the food, in the lightning truth, in thunder sound, in wind Indra Vaikunta, in space the plenum, in fire the vanquisher, in water brilliance, thus with reference to the divinities. Now with reference to the self, in the mirror the reflection, in the shadow the double, in echo life, in sound death, in sleep Yama the lord of death, in the body Prajapati, in the right eye speech, in the left eye truth. Then said Balaki, "Him who is this person in the sun, on him I indeed meditate." To him Ajatasattu said, "Make me not to converse on him, as the great white robe, the supreme, the head of all beings. Thus verily do I meditate on him. He who meditates on him thus becomes indeed the supreme, the head of all beings." Then said Balaki, "Him who is the person in the moon, on him indeed do I meditate." To him Ajatasattu said, "Make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him, asking soma as the self of food. He who meditates on him thus becomes indeed the self of food." Then said Balaki, "I meditate on the person indeed, who is the person in the lightning." To him then Ajatasattu said, "Make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the self of truth. He who meditates on him thus becomes indeed the self of truth, of brilliance." Then said Balaki, "I meditate on the person in the thunder." To him then Ajatasattu said, "Make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the self of sound. He who meditates on him thus becomes indeed the self of sound." Then said Balaki, "I meditate on the person in wind." To him then Ajatasattu said, "Make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as Indra Vaikunta, or as the unconquered army. He who meditates on him thus becomes indeed the triumphant, the unconquerable, a conqueror of adversaries." Then said Balaki, "I meditate on the person in space." To him then Ajatasattu said, "Make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the full moon active Brahman. He who meditates on him thus becomes filled with offspring, cattle, fame, the radiance of sanctity, and the heavenly world. He reaches the full term of life. Then said Balaki, I meditate on the person in fire. To him then Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the vanquisher. He who meditates on him thus becomes verily a vanquisher of others. Then said Balaki, I meditate on the person in water. To him then Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the self of brilliance of name. Thus with reference to the divinities. Now with reference to the self. Then said Balaki, I meditate indeed on the person in the mirror. To him then Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the reflected likeness. He then who meditates on him thus, a very likeness of him is born in his offspring, not in unlikeness. Then said Balaki, I meditate indeed on the person in the shadow. To him Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the inseparable double. He then who meditates on him thus attains from his second and becomes possessed of his double. Then said Balaki, I meditate indeed on the person in the echo. To him Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as life. He then who meditates on him thus passes not into unconsciousness before his time. Then said Balaki, I meditate indeed on the person in sound. To him Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as death. He then who meditates on him thus does not die before his time. Then said Balaki, I meditate indeed on the person who while asleep moves about in dream. To him Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as King Yama. He then who meditates on him thus to his supremacy, everything here is subdued. Then said Balaki, I meditate on the person who is this body. To him Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as Prajapati. He then who meditates on him thus is augmented with offspring, cattle, fame, the luster of sanctity, the heavenly world. He reaches the full term of life. Then said Balaki, I meditate on the person in the right eye. To him Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the self of speech, the self of fire, the self of light. He then who meditates on him thus becomes the self of all these. Then said Balaki, I meditate on the person in the left eye. To him then Ajatasattu said, make me not to converse on him. I meditate on him as the self of truth, the self of lightning, the self of brightness. He then who meditates on him thus becomes the self of all these. And thereupon Balaki was silent. To him then Ajatasattu said, so much only, Balaki? So much only, replied Balaki. To him then Ajatasattu said, in vain, indeed, did you make to converse, saying, let me declare Brahman to you. He indeed, Balaki, who is the maker of these persons, of whom verily this is the work, he alone is to be known. Thereupon Balaki, fuel in hand, approached, saying, receive me as a pupil. To him then Ajatasattu said, this I deem a form of conduct contrary to nature, that a Kshatriya should receive a Brahmana as pupil. But come, I shall make you understand. Then taking him by the hand, he went forth. The two of them came upon a person asleep. Ajatasattu called him, saying, O great white-robed king, Soma! But he just lay silent. Then he pushed him with a stick. He got up at once. To him then Ajatasattu said, where in this case, O Balaki, has this person lain? What has become of him here? Whence has he returned here? Thereupon Balaki understood not. To him then Ajatasattu said, where in this case, O Balaki, has this person lain? What has become of him here? Whence he has returned here, as I asked, is the arteries of a person of the heart called Hita the beneficent. From the heart they spread forth to the pericardium. Now they are as minute as a hair divided 1,000-fold. They consist of minute essence, reddish, brown, white, black, yellow, and red. In these one remains while asleep. He sees no dream whatsoever. And then he becomes unitary in his vital breath. Then speech together with all names goes to it. The eye together with all forms goes to it. The ear together with all forms goes to it. The mind together with all thoughts goes to it. When he awakes, as from a blazing fire, sparks proceed in all directions. Even so, from the self, the vital breaths proceed to their respective stations. From the vital breaths, the gods, the sense faculties. From the sense faculties comes the worlds. This vital breath, even this self of intelligence, has entered this body self up to the hair and fingernail. Just as a razor might be hidden in a razor case, or as a fire in a fireplace, even so this self of intelligence has entered this bodily self up to the very hair and nails. On that self, these other selves depend as upon a chief, his own men, or as his own men are of service to a chief. Even so, these other selves are of service to the self of intelligence. Verily, as long as Indra did not understand this self, so long as the Asuras overcame him. When he understood this, striking down and conquering the Asuras, he attained preeminence among all gods and beings, sovereignty and overlordship. Likewise, also, he who knows this, striking off all evils, attains preeminence, sovereignty, and overlordship over all beings. He who knows this, he who knows this. Thus ends this Upanishad. So much wisdom here. So there's a lot to this Upanishad. This past thing is very esoteric. I think I mentioned in an earlier video how it tends to really feel like it's like beating a dead horse. I didn't use that word, but it's very repetitious when maybe from a writer's point of view you could have cut this down. But it's really trying to hone some particular points in, some things you need to know. And this final part is really a summary of so much that has come before. Lots of repetition, trying to get things from different points of view. It is interesting, though. I don't know how these Upanishads were written. I don't think anyone really knows. But they do feel sometimes like, here's the story, and then we're kind of like not reattached, but we're going to add more to it, but it doesn't really add more to it. It's almost like someone had an Upanishad and goes, oh, I think I know a way of rewriting this, and they kind of do. It's really interesting. I don't know. But there's a lot here, and I'm just going to kind of leave it open for you to start a conversation about this, to comment anything at all that you feel moved to say, and down below, you know how it works. Would love to hear from you, and as always, thank you for watching my videos, thank you for supporting my channel, and may we be blessed by the Lord by this undertaking of exploring the words of the Lord and the words of the teachers who were blessed by the Lord and the sages. And yeah. So with that, thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.